welcome back to another episode of the Mindfully Curious podcast. Today's beautiful background music is provided by my dogs. I tried to record an intro earlier, but they kept barking and being super annoying, so I gave them a little, I call it huesito. It's just like a chew bone, so they can be entertained and let me hopefully record this in peace. So, if you hear weird noises in the background, that's what it is. So, back to business. No podcast last week because I had a small medical procedure. I've had an arm implant basically a birth control arm implant. It's kind of like a matchstick that gets inserted in the skin in your arm, and it lasts up to 3 years. And basically, I've had 3 of these, so 9 years on them, and I have been on birth control since I was 17. So that procedure was the last step in me taking back my health into my own hands. That was the last medication or prescription or exogenous substance that I have been on for the last few years. And it's been interesting. It's going to be a little bit of a journey to see what happens, and I can already tell how my body feels a little bit different every day. So weird what you learn when you tune in. So that's why there was no podcast last week, so I apologize for that. I so appreciate everybody who shows up for this, and you being here listening is what makes this all possible. Because if nobody was listening, well, I would not be going through all of the work that it takes to get these posted out. But anyway, super stoked for today's conversation. It is with my sister Angi Sanders, aka the Water Dragon. During this episode, we are going to talk about mainly self-love. Because at the end of the day, self-love is such a great fuel for anything you need to get done in this life. And not only is it the best fuel, I say it's the best fuel because it truly is a clean burning fuel. Anything you do out of love is more than likely guaranteed to have the best outcome possible. Even if you can't see it at the time. I mean, it has never let me down, and you are gonna get to hear so much about self-love in this episode. So I'm not gonna harp on it right now. But Angi shares her journey of personal transformation, which a lot of the times when we talk about personal transformation, unless you've known the person, it's kind of hard to judge the real change of the subject because you're not tracking their data. You can't see their data, or maybe you can, I don't know. But unless you have something concrete to look at, like data, it's hard to make sense of stuff. But she has a lot of hard, concrete data on herself. And the biggest piece of that, wow, that was terrible pronunciation, guys. The biggest piece of that, since I speak Spanish as my first language, saying eyes, I want to say E, so that's what that was. Pieces turn into pieces real quick in my world. But the biggest piece of her journey that is concrete is the weight that she's lost. She went from being 500 pounds or over to now being in the low 200s. And she talks about how hard and yet how easy and how right this journey continues to feel for her. And man, Angi is such an inspiration to me because I have gone through my own issues with my health, and food has been one of the things that was ingrained in my family as comfort, as okay, so let me tell you a story. When I was a kid, we would go to my mom's parents' house every Sunday, and we would basically spend all day there. My grandma was awesome, and she was a great cook, and her showing us love was cooking a 5-course meal and having all these snacks and whatever. And the way we showed her love back was sitting there and eating everything. And you eat and eat and eat and eat. And I remember lots of times, especially when I would spend the night there, we would gather around the table before going to bed at night. And people would be like having tea or whatever. And they would pull out like little crackers or little cookies. And we would just be basically gossiping right before bed and eating snacks. And I remember so many times sitting at that table late at night, especially if it was a holiday, for sure if it was a holiday, just feeling like if I ate one more fucking thing, I would die. It was just such an uncomfortable feeling of fullness. But it really was a total habit. And that being part of my life whenever I became an adult and I started kind of taking my health for granted, starting to have some sort of like issues with my body. I tore my ACL. That led to me gaining like 20 pounds and stopping all of my athletic endeavors. And then I tore it again and I gained another 10 pounds and I did even less. And then I tore it again and I did even less. And at that point, I was just basically like, whatever, this body is garbage. It doesn't work anymore. I am just going to surrender to not being a mobile human being anymore and being about 60 pounds overweight. What ifs? I can love myself through this. And I thought the way to love myself through that was to pump myself full of medications and also continue pumping myself full of Starbucks drinks and whatever snacks and fancy dinners, brunches, alcohol, whatever I felt called to. Because now I didn't have to watch my weight. I could eat whatever I want. I was re-signed to just be whatever. And, well, thing is, I only continue to get sicker and sicker, more depressed. It resonated not just in my body but in my life. My mindset was just super whack, and it was starting to get just really unhealthy ways of thinking, ways of acting and being in the world. So about 3 years ago, or honestly, this journey kind of started at the end of 2017 when I was in an MBA. I got kicked out because I was having all of these issues. So I wasn't showing up. I wasn't putting in the work. I was being disrespectful. But I was so depressed and honestly suicidal that it was kind of the best thing that happened to me, because that big kick in the ass, aka Dark Night of the Soul, really provided me with the time to reflect on my life and digest what I wanted to be going forward. And it forced me to get dead honest with myself. And this 2017 was when I really started making a commitment to rebuild the relationship with my body, with my mind, and with my soul. And I'm feeling pretty good now. So what's that? 18, 19, 20. It's going on 4 years. I'm feeling better and better every day. The best thing about this journey for me is that it continues to go. And I love that I know that it will continue for as long as I have breath, for as long as I am here on this earth. And now that I've pushed through the hard part of digging myself out of the hole that I dug myself into, now I can feel momentum. And I'm starting to get to a place where I feel so much joy and so much happiness and so much gratitude for everything that I've gone through and everything that has happened and everything that my body continues to do for me. It really is so amazing. And this conversation with Angie is going to be a great reflection of that type of journey, which honestly, I feel like we kind of all are going through in one way or another. And yeah, the juicy nugget is how you get to do it through pleasure and through love rather than through pain. We over here are all about the no pain, all gain kind of philosophy. If you think it's too good to be true, hang on and let me know what you think by the end of this chat. Would love to hear your feedback. If you like the show, you know how to show us some love. Hit the 5 stars, send me a DM, connect in any way. Humans were built for connection. And I have this portal open for you to make your wishes known. Tell me what you love. Tell me what you hate. Tell me whatever you feel like telling me. And please feel free to connect with our guests as well. Angie's information, social media, links, and resources will be tagged on the show notes. And with that, welcome my friend, Angi Sanders. She's a warrior of love. She is a personal trainer. She's a self-love coach. But more than anything, she's a bad-ass, sweet, loving, caring woman. And without further ado, here's our conversation.
Well, thank you for deciding to stay and bearing with me and being here. And most importantly, being who you are. And normally I like to open the podcast conversations by asking our guests to give us their quick riff on how did you get to be the magical being you are today? And you can go into as much or as little detail as you feel called to.
Wow, how did I get to be here today? Well, first, my mom met my biological father. Or we could go even further back. So I have this soul group, and they decided I need no. Wow, like we need like all the time in the world for this one. I am, how did I get here? But I would say pure sheer willpower. By that, I mean, the magical being I am today wouldn't exist if I hadn't decided to just say screw what everyone else thought. All my life, it felt like I have been going against the grain of what other people thought I should be able to do. First off, little backstory, I am a living success story. Yes, I grew up and I was overweight and obese my entire life. I don't know anything about being thin or anything like that. So that's the life that I grew up in. I was made fun of mercilessly as a child. And my way to respond to that was to like, all right, I am strong. I am not weak. And so I kind of had strength become one of my big core values. And so I always wanted to be the strong one. And so I was also pretty much my own protector a lot of the time, where it felt like it. And like, I'm sure, it's just my own perception, but that's the way I kind of felt it. But it kind of painted my life and how I approached life as I'm going to take care of me. And I decided one day that I didn't want to be overweight anymore. I was almost 500 pounds at the time. And I'm all like, I'm done. I'm done with this. And I was given an opportunity to do something about it. And I'm like, okay. And it was gastric bypass. My employers, they offered to pay for surgery if I would just do the legwork. So I did the legwork. Um, but I understood gastric bypass to be a tool, not a cure. Some people have given me hell for choosing gastric bypass rather than doing it natural. And I'm all like, look, yeah, I know now I could have done it natural, but at the time I thought that was my only option. And so it's not that I cheated, because a lot of people tell me, or the haters will tell me I cheated. I'm like, no, all I did was trade one set of challenges for a different set of challenges. And as the weight started coming off, and this is where the magic starts to really happen, I discovered CrossFit and fell in love with moving my body. And then as my self-confidence gained and grew, other parts of my personality started to come out that had been muted. And I discovered I was competitive, and I discovered that I enjoyed moving. I discovered that there was a whole new level to strength that I had yet, the actual physical aspect of picking up heavy things and feeling really darn good about it. But on top of that, I was doing things I'd never done before that people grew up doing, like jumping, running, even something as simple as swinging a sledgehammer. So my personal self-confidence started to grow, and that led to different spiritual awakenings, things that I had not even considered, like becoming comfortable in discomfort. And like, I will tell people today that a lot of my own spiritual lessons began in the gym. Um, that they laid the foundation, especially like that first, like finding comfort in the discomfort, knowing how to breathe through the pain. That one is huge. Just breathe through it, calm yourself, don't panic, because like when you're in the middle of Fran, you feel like you're gonna die. And if you're Fran is a CrossFit workout, for those who don't know. It's really disgusting. Or like, say if you're in the middle of Murph, most people know what Murph is, especially with Memorial Day that just happened. So many people did Memorial Day Murph. And like when you're in the middle of that, and if your breathing is out of whack, then you're pretty much gassed and you're done, until you can get that calmed down. Also, that's where I learned how to use fear as my divine GPS. That's another another trait that I have. If I'm afraid of something, I'm just gonna go for it, because like in CrossFit, like you see these workouts and they scare you. Like, yeah, they scare you, but you go towards them. You go towards the discomfort. And so yeah, really, I'm gonna say CrossFit was like the crucible that helped give birth to this magical person. And I was able to transform. And one thing that CrossFit showed me was how important community was. That was my first taste of tribe, first taste of acceptance, of people not caring what I looked like, except the fact that I was just there doing the work. That's what they cared about. They didn't care that I was overweight or that I had to scale the workouts. They were just happy I was there, and I was one of the team. That's my first taste of that, where I felt fully accepted and seen. And fast forward, now I live in the Austin area, and I actually had to move to San Marcos, like almost 6 years ago. It's south of Austin. And I had the fortune to be at a CrossFit gym that had a little bit more of the spiritual side to it, about being a stickler for form. And they actually did breath work for a little bit. They incorporated it into the workouts, especially during isometric holds. And they were very stickler about form. And so again, we joked around that we were the hippy dippy gym. And and then it just allowed me to explore more of who I am and community and that kind of acceptance, and then being able to turn it back around and help other people. We were encouraged to coach each other. So it was kind of like my first taste of coaching. And I'm like, you know what? I really want to do this. I want to give back. And so I ended up getting my CrossFit L1. And I fell in love with empowering people. It's, that's what you want to be as a coach. Like, you want the person to learn and know that they have agency over themselves, and to see that moment when everything clicks and they feel like, oh yeah, I got this. And then they move the way that you coach them to move. And they're like, man, that felt good. And it's like, yeah, it did. Go you. And, oh man, and then there's the spiritual side of how I got here. It almost, like, I don't know how much time we have. So when I first discovered CrossFit, I had a polytheistic beliefs. And one thing that they don't tell you about changing your entire lifestyle, because the group that I was with, they knew me before the change, and then as the change was happening, they were basically, it's us or that. And I chose myself, and so I ended up losing friends because I chose it to heal myself. And so that sent me through this whole huge spiritual loop, because in my mind I'd lost they were my family, and all of a sudden they cut me off. Like, literally, as soon as I made that choice, there was do not pass go, do not collect $200, you are out. And I ended up finding Christianity, and I came from this weird place of being a polytheist to going to monotheism, and it's like this weird, just like, how does this work? And long story short, I figured out how to make it work. I did. But it was a lot of praying. It was a lot of inner work. It was a lot of facing my own personal demons of not being good enough, being told that I was ugly, fighting what society will tell me what I can and cannot do. Like, I've spent my whole life fighting judgments. Like I said before, like, people look at me and they automatically make a judgment just based on how I look without ever saying a word to me. So I still fight that today. And just meeting everything with love. I think that's the full Cliff Notes version right there, is just being able to love myself. That has been the biggest transformation, and that actually began in 2020. Like, everybody's like, I hated 2020. I'm like, okay, 2020 was weird, but it was the most beautiful year of my entire life. That's where I learned to love myself, and it's actually what has led me to make leaps and bounds transformations. Like I spent 36 years doing what I did in 2020 is what it felt like. And all it was working on my self-love. And working on my own personal self-love has allowed me to be more compassionate, more understanding. I'm not saying I'm perfect. I mean, nothing shows me that I need more compassion than driving in rush hour. You know? Like,
That right there, I want to jump in that because that is one of my biggest triggers. Oh my goodness. Oh my
I,
goodness.
oh my gosh, I'm all like, do y'all even know what a gas pedal is? I'm like, wait, like, I love you. Never mind. You'll figure it out, you know? But
Yeah.
yeah, it's like learning to love myself has been the absolute biggest piece of how I got to where we are today, because it allowed me to reset my boundaries, not just with other people, but also with myself and what I accept for myself. It changed my negative self-talk. But again, that also goes back to what I learned in CrossFit, because one of the very first CrossFit articles I ever wrote, or not wrote, but read, was about how important it was during the middle of a workout to cheer yourself on rather than tear yourself down in a workout. Instead of saying, oh, I can't do this, like, oh my gosh, okay, it hurts, it sucks, I feel like I can't do this, but I got this, you know, that sort of thing. And so that kind of planted the seed for positive self-talk. And then when I started really being aware of how I talked to myself in that year of love, and I call it the year of love because every year I choose a word for the year that all of my lessons throughout the year are filtered through. And love was my word for 2020. And it was, again, one of those where I understood it wasn't going to be romantic love. That was not my intent for it. It was really to deepen my relationship with my concept of God, because I understood God to be love. I mean, it says it in the Bible, God is love. I'm like, all right, God, time for me and you to be, you know, let's have a conversation, bro, you know? And so that's pretty much what it was. It's like just learning love. And it was actually not just love like God, it was like very much I was called to learn to love myself, and that included my physical body. One of my biggest realizations was that I withheld love from myself based on how I looked, you know?
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
I know because I can honestly say that, well, first, thank you so much for sharing.
you're very welcome.
And what comes up for me is love is the skill that, if practiced, has the biggest ROI, return on investment, for any change that you're trying to make, whether it's in the gym or in your heart. And when you say how important it is to cheer yourself on and not to break yourself down with your words, that rings so true to me because I grew up, my dad was a sports fanatic. And because he was a sports fanatic, I was supposed to be doing sports, and not only supposed to be doing sports, but doing sports very competitively. And I honestly was not into it. So I was kind of like a slave, or I had to do this, you know, it's like in order to get my dad's love or just to like not get my ass kicked, basically, I have to do this and I have to be good at it and I have to pretend to like it. And so I had a really unhealthy relationship with discipline. And as soon as I was able to break free from that, I went the complete other extreme where I was abusing my body. I was doing all these like physically demanding things and not taking care of myself. And then, of course, I became really unhealthy. I had all kinds of hormonal issues. I gained a ton of weight, and then I have like 70 extra pounds on me, and I'm still trying to do all these jumps and stuff. I break my ACL, and then it's like, oh, now my body doesn't work. And that disconnection from my body, just like it was like a severed thing. It's like, well, this thing no longer works, so I'm just gonna shut down. I literally started feeling like I was just like shutting down to die. It's like, okay, well, this thing doesn't work anymore, and just kept going like unhealthier and unhealthier, and like so much depressed. And it was just like, what's happening on the outside, everything looked good. I had a job, I was making the most money I've ever made. I had a partnership, I had a big house and a new car. And I remember the day I told my brothers that I was really depressed and that I had considered killing myself a couple times. They were just like, what? Like, when did this happen? Because you mentioned something in your story that I always felt like I had to be strong. And I felt that too. And it was like, well, I felt I had to be strong. And because of that, I felt like nobody else could hold this weight that I was carrying. And I had to be strong and hold it on my own. And then once I started sharing that weight with other people and started hearing like, oh, well, that kind of happens to me too. And just sharing stories and just being like, oh, fuck, I didn't have to do that. Like, I didn't have to hate myself through this. Like, I could have loved myself instead and made it so much faster, so much easier, and fucking so much more enjoyable.
It's like, what? It doesn't have to suck? What? Concept. Yeah, oh man, when you said that you didn't feel like that anybody else was strong enough to hold it, that was my battle. I'm all like, I'm a force of nature. Anyone that I've ever tried to share this with, I've broken, or at least I perceived that I broke them. So I just held it all. I'm all like, no, I am my strong. I am my strength. Everybody else is not strong enough for this. But then when you do find your tribe, when you do find the people who can hold you, it's like a breath of fresh air. And when I found my people, when I found my tribe, it was like, oh, I don't have to hold it. In fact, if I loved myself, like if I really loved myself, like I said I did, then I would allow others to help me. It's not just about me helping them. It's very much about allowing someone else to be like, hey, I got you. Let me hold you while you cry. I'm like, okay.
Yes. Welcome back to the circle of life, where it is just as much about giving as it is about receiving. And it sounds crazy.
Yeah.
But everything in life is cycles. Everything in nature is cycles. It's like we're born to die, we die so that others can be born. It's so obvious and so simple, and yet such a paradox to hold and to understand.
Yeah. And like another thing is how, and I have come to this realization, and it's just through my own experience, is like I lived that life and I worked out till I was overtraining 2-a-days. I was starving myself. And full disclosure, it was because I thought I was trying to become what society wanted me to become. I was trying to lose the fat and gain the muscle all at once. And I thought by starving myself and working out, lifting all the weights, that I could do that. And my body was just not feeling it. And I was running myself down. And then when I started to love myself, and I was not making any progress. That's another thing. I was plateauing. I was gaining fat, even though I was getting smaller. It's like, oh, my muscle is going away. Duh. all right, yeah. and, and I was obsessed with getting like these in-body scans that like every month that would tell me exactly where I was with the percentages and everything like that. I mean, like I was measuring things. I was like, I went carnivore. Nothing wrong with carnivore if that's your thing, you know. But I was doing it for the wrong reasons, you know, and it with the wrong intent. And I think that's why a lot of people fail these transformations, is because why are you doing it, you know? And when I began to love myself, I stopped eating, you know, with all these measurements. And I started eating intuitively. I started moving and training intuitively. I'm like, oh, what does my body feel like doing today? Oh, my body is really, really tired. I think I'll just go for a walk and be okay with that. And that was really, really, really hard to break that programming. And it really did just come back to loving myself and practicing that self-love and saying, hey, it's food. Where at one time I was at war and likened a Twinkie to a heroin. You know, I'm like, Twinkies were my heroin. Like Twinkies, Oreos, Reese's Pieces, though I will say Reese's Pieces are still just absolutely delicious. And so I love those. That's my favorite candy. No shame at that. Like I had some earlier yesterday, you know. I did no shame about having some Reese's Pieces.
And no shame about anything. I think
No.
it's so funny that, I mean, I grew up in a Catholic society and shame was huge, you know, like anytime somebody's like, anytime somebody doesn't like what you're doing, or like you said, anytime the haters come up, it was always like shame. Honestly, if I could have a meme for this, it would be Game of Thrones when they made Cersei walk naked and everybody had the freaking bell
Yeah.
and they were just screaming shame. Like
Shame,
I even got this
shame.
bell to remind myself.
Oh wow.
For
Yeah, yeah, it's
so
like
long, I felt
shame.
like people were shaming me like that. And yeah, so shame is a tool of oppression.
It
Y'all, do
is.
not use shame. Do not shame yourself. Do not
Yeah.
shame others. Do not. And that expression, like, oh, what a shame. Like, fuck that.
Yeah, and you
Shame
see,
is a tool of oppression. Sorry.
it is. And judgment too. And judgment and shame are very, you know, it's like first there's judgment and then there's shame. And then you judge yourself for having shame. And like it's this again, that cycle you were talking about, it's a vicious cycle. And how you break it is like, I don't care what you think. Like I had to learn at a very early age to not let what other people's thoughts and judgments and opinions of me matter to me. Like like I said, I was a big person my entire life, but I have always been that person to go out and do something. Well, I say always. There was actually a 2 to 5 year period where I was a hermit. I had maybe 5 friends. Most of them were online. I hid. I played video games. I drank all the soda. I mean, you don't get the 500 pounds eating carrot sticks, okay? You know,
And soda
and
is a really easy way to consume calories. I
oh
mean,
yeah.
extremely easy way.
Oh yeah, like I know all those ways to eat the easy calories, and I did. And I know that a lot of it was because I did not know my own personal self-worth. And um and like I didn't even find that until again recently. It's been a fight, an absolute fight, and I can understand why people are intimidated by it, because it's like, where do I even start to love myself? And I'm all like, well, first you have to accept that there might be a different way. Like that's the first thing, is being open to it. You know, it's baby steps. It really is baby steps that build, because like when you first start to work self-love, it's like, man, I feel stupid doing this. It's like, this is not going to work. What is the self-love? That sounds real hippie and woo-woo. Or people think it's selfish to love yourself, especially, in, again, I'm not hating Christians or anything like that, but they're indoctrinated that to love self is bad. Like, if you love yourself, then you don't love God. And, spoiler alert, it's biblical to love yourself, because like,
And
what was
also,
it?
I just want to add, in the God stories that I've heard, it's always said that God created humans in the like of God. We're like as a reflection of God. So it's like, technically, you are God. And I don't mean like in a way where like you are the God, but it's like we are all a little bit of
We're all
God.
divine. We are.
Yeah, just like we are all animals, we're all of nature, it's like we're all the same.
Yeah, it's and then that's another cool thing. And again, that whole divinity, even that is biblical if you know how to read the Bible. And like, I spent a lot of time reading the Bible, so like I got biblical for everything, I believe. Like I said, I've been able to find biblical backing for the woo-woo stuff, I believe. Self-love. Jesus himself left us with 2 commandments: love God and love our neighbor as ourself.
Ooh.
A lot of people just focus on the love your neighbor and love God. They kind of skip over the as yourself part. I'm like, oh. And then if God is love, we are called to be love. And what is love? Love is patient. Love is kind. Love holds no record of wrong. So not only do we offer that to those around us, but we offer it to ourselves. We must be patient with be patient with ourselves. We must be kind to ourselves. We must hold no record of wrong with ourselves. That doesn't mean that
don't beef with yourself.
No beef with yourself. Like, love yourself, like forgive yourself for anything like that you may have done. If you ever cheated on somebody, okay, that happened. You learned your lesson, hopefully. If you didn't, love you anyway. It's like, love yourself where you're at. That's basically what it is. And that's what makes like fitness, like tying it all back into like everything, that's what makes that sustainable. Because if you love yourself, then yeah, you're going to move your body. You're going to give your body what it wants. You're going to feed it nutritional food that fuels it. You're going to express yourself. You're going to, do the things that give you passion. You're not going to put yourself in a position that causes you suffering. Because not everything is happy butterflies and everything like that, but you have the option not to suffer. It's like, okay, another thing Jesus said, it's like, yeah, we'll have pain. We will have pain. Trials will happen. But how do you deal with it? How do you approach it? And
you
when
love
you
it.
love it, yeah, you love it. You love it, Oh, okay. Speaking of you loving it, a lot of the work that we do in this conscious community, we fight our ego, we fight our shadows, we fight our dragons or try to kill them. And I'm like, wait a minute, can we stop trying to kill dragons? As a water dragon, stop trying to kill my people, But like, one of the things that has really stood out to me is like the wording that people use is, I've killed my ego. I've slayed my dragon. And I'm like, wait a minute. What would happen? And just follow me here. If you loved that demon into an ally, if you met that shadow with love, and instead of trying to kill it, start a communication with it. What is that shadow actually trying to tell you? Because your shadow is still in this body. And if this body goes away, it goes away. So what is it trying to tell you? And the only language it has. And when you find that lesson, when you open that dialogue, when you meet that shadow with love, then y'all can come together learn the lesson together, and that demon, that dragon, that shadow becomes your ally. That healed trauma becomes your ally. That energy that was just swirling around, causing some sort of illness, disease within you, when you love it and heal it and take the time to understand it, then whenever you are faced with a trial, rather than being surrounded by a field of corpses, you've got an army standing at your back ready to fight for you. And that has been, again, one of the most powerful lessons, is even loving the shadows, loving the parts of us that are icky, you know? The parts of us that make us cry, the parts of us that we may not want to look at or that we're trying to hide. Like, even if that part of us really is some dark stuff, like, I get it. There are some people out there who have been through some unspeakable traumas that nobody should ever go through. But they still have the ability to meet that trauma with love, you know? And they aren't alone at all. Like, there's people out there who want to help them, to hold them while they hold that space. And like, if anybody's watching this and if you need space held, I got you. I'm a space holding champ, you know? You know, I will help you. I will love you while you love your demon, you know?
And she will teach you how to fish, aka how to hold space for yourself, because that's been a huge thing for me in my journey with self-love, is understanding what that means to hold space. And I feel like it was easy for me to do it for other people. And I mean, obviously it was kind of like an evolution from, oh, I'm here to solve your problems or to like take your pain away. And that kind of evolved into, I'm here with you in your pain. And then that evolved to, I'm here, I see you, I hear you, I'm here with you. Because I think that we don't have to actually feel somebody else's pain to be there for them and to hold a space. And when you're able to create that little bubble of we're here with your pain, but we're not your pain, it's easy for the other person to be like, oh, that's how you can hold space for pain and not be it. And now being able to hold that space for myself, whenever I'm having like a super emotionally charged time, I kind of even just feel like I split myself in two. And I have like a person that's the holding space part of me sitting there like watching me. And then I have this other person, like for example, the child that's scared and anxious and doesn't know when the next paycheck is coming through and how the bills are going to be met or whatever. And this child is just anxious and crying, and that other person is just holding space because that other person knows that we've never really lacked for anything. Everything has always been fine. And that person knows that there really is everything we need in nature in abundance. But this child, you know, the child has to go through the process of feeling what it feels like to not believe, and then to have somebody there who is believing. And then when everything turns out okay in the end, then that child can be like, oh, so this whole believing in love and self-care and holding space and truth, it really does work. And now I can take my heavy backpack full of rocks and all of my griefs and sorrows and whatever else you might have in there. Shame. Got a big motherfucker full of shame over here. Put that backpack down and leave it. That holding space person part of you will watch that backpack for you, little child, if you so feel the need to come back and look inside of it. Because maybe you just want to feel what it felt like when everybody was shaming you. But I doubt it. Because if you could feel love, why would you want to feel shame?
Right, right. Well, maybe to remember what it's like to remember love, there's always reasons,
Good
but
point.
yeah, but what you said about, that split, that I call it the one who witnesses, um, that person, that split, that holds that space. It's like I do something similar, like I'll even feel it, like I'll start to ask myself questions. And then whatever is that emotional part, it starts to answer the questions. And then like I'll end up asking myself some really tough questions that makes emotional self go, I really hate you right now. It's like, darn you I was really enjoying being in my misery for a second, but why you got to go and be logical like that, you know? Um, but at the same time, that one who witnesses is always, it's never asking questions in an accusatory way. It's like, look, I see you. What you feel is valid, but have you considered this? What about this? Okay, and I get it. You may want to feel like what happened to you, completely valid. Nobody should ever go through that, be it like a pain of a breakup or some boundary crossing, and like because that little kid wants to get even. That little kid wants retribution of some sort, or if it is worried about like where the next paycheck is coming from, that kid just wants to be safe and they don't feel safe. And it's like, okay, I see the situation and I understand that you don't feel safe, but hasn't everything worked itself out? It's like you borrow faith from yourself, because like you that's one of the cool things about being in communities. Like you can borrow the faith of somebody else. And all they have to do is be like, yeah, I totally believe in you. And you're like, that meant so much to me, bro.
Yeah.
It's, just like you said, just being able to hold space for yourself. Yeah, that is a huge act of self-love. And just, again, meeting yourself without shame and without judgment and being like, I honor you. I honor the feelings that you feel and I see you. Let me, like, okay, you want to rage? All right. Because sometimes you do just want to throw a temper tantrum. And like, you know what? More power to you. Throw that temper tantrum. Move that energy through. Just move it through. Don't hold on to it. That is also an act of self-love, is moving the energy through it. Because like, and I had to learn this lesson of toxic positivity. A lot of time, especially in our conscious community, people be like, oh man, I feel anger. Positive, positive, positive. And it's just all like, oh, wait, oh, no, I don't feel like, no, you still feel it. It's still there.
You just teastered it.
Yeah, you are now officially a volcano.
And speaking about moving energy, I feel like a good heavy workout is a great way to alchemize rage or even sadness. Yeah,
oh
seriously.
yes. Oh my gosh. Again, another lesson I learned in the gym was, even when I am pissed off or if I am depressed, there is nothing that the barbell can't heal or can't help you move. Barbell, dumbbell, like there's some max effort lifts that got lifted because I was pissed off.
Yeah.
And yeah. And actually what often more happens to me is like, it's where I can find peace. Because if I really like, most of my lifts, okay, some of my lifts have been anger lifts, but most of my lifts have been when I could step in front of the bar, take a breath, and everything goes calm. And it's just me, my body, and the bar. And for a moment, nothing else exists but that moment. And then after the lift is done, it's all like, oh, okay, I do have peace, even though this thing is like, this thing is still happening, but it's a different perspective. And sometimes it happens more than once and you got to keep doing it. But like the bar helped me be able to center and know and teach myself how to center. And yeah, I could talk about the barbell all day. I joke around that I love it more than tacos. And if you know me, that's saying something.
Well, I love tacos too. And I agree with you that centering yourself is so important. And to me, it is because if I go try to lift something heavy, sure, maybe I am going to use this to optimize my rage. But the thing is, when you show up before you do the movement, you have to stand in truth. Because no matter how much rage I have, I'm not going to lift 300 pounds. Like, it's not going to happen. I mean, it's not without me hurting myself. So me having that grace to stand in my truth and choose to not give myself one last ass kicking before embodying grace. Yeah. Because I used to be me. I'd be like, well, you know, like, I'm just going to go ham, and going ham a lot of the times ended me going out in the stretcher. But if you want longevity, you want to stand in truth. And like you said earlier, accept yourself at the best that you are today. And I think that's all, it's mindset. And I love that you have this amazing experience, amazing life experience, and amazing energy you've cultivated from it. And now you get to share that with others through your coaching practice. So tell us a little bit about your brand of coaching magic.
My coaching magic. So I do coach at a gym in San Marcos, but I also have found I discovered that I could coach actually being in the On It tribe on Facebook. And it started with just little keyboard stuff, just giving encouragement and people responding well to that, or being at the gym while I was working out and people around me, just encouraging them. And my style of coaching is very much honoring where you're at. Yeah, go ahead and push yourself, but understanding where you are at. And I help people to become in tune with their bodies enough. Oftentimes the workouts at the gym that I coach at will have you're doing a bench press at 70% of your 1 rep max. Well, this gym is not a competitive gym. Most people don't keep track of that. And they're like, I don't even know what my 1 rep is. And I'm like, okay, that's cool. That's fine. Absolutely fine. On a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being you can lift it all day long, 10 being you're like, you couldn't lift it if they paid you. What's your 7? Find that. Lift that. What is that today? And some days it may be heavier. Some days it may be lighter. It is very much me encouraging people to tap in to that feel of their body and finding the right cues. When you tell people to engage their core, they know that their core is this right here, but engage it. Like, what, you want me to propose to it? It's already me, I used to tell people to act like I'm going to punch you, and then it's like, wait a minute, that's not very loving. I don't want to punch anybody. So actually a friend at On It, because that's the gym I work out at. I coach at one gym, work out at another.
That's actually super common.
Yeah, I go to all the gyms.
There you go.
Yes. Another coach told me that when she coaches children, because you can't really go around telling kids to punch themselves, that you're like, I'm about to punch you. No, don't tell a kid that. Do not recommend. She tells them to say "grr."
Oh, yeah, wow.
Does it? Say "grr." There it is. And so I started doing that, and I'm like, that's right. I noticed that the way you encourage people also helps, because if you're telling them to say "grr," all of a sudden, you are a strong beast. You got this. Encouraging people to talk to themselves better, be mindful of how they talk to themselves. I am the woo-woo coach at my gym. I'm very much into, well, how do you feel today? okay, you might want to take it a little easy if they're feeling bad. Or, oh, wow, you're on top of it. All right, I know I can push you today, you know? It's like, and, just being aware of how my client feels, asking them how if they walk in and normally they're all upbeat, but if they walk in and their shoulders are a little slumped and they're not as energetic as they're, I'm like, hey, are you okay? And they may want to talk about it, they may not, but having an encouraging word saying, hey, if you need to talk, I'm here. Or, you know what, I got you no matter what it is, even if it's picking up somebody's weights, and helping them out with that, that just little things, and just trying to be empathetic to where they are at that point. Like my favorite clients to coach are actually the people who come in knowing nothing. People who are just beginning, or like I tell people that the demographic that I want to reach the most are the people who are currently where I was, because I know what it's like to know, or to feel like it is too late to even start, like, first of all, if
Yes.
you're watching this, it is never too late to start anything, and but like my coaching, like, it is so fulfilling to help people. I absolutely love it. It is my calling 100% to encourage people and to educate people. And the fact that I get to do it from where I was, it's, oh man, imposter syndrome was a thing for a very long time, still kind of creeps up there from time to time, in that, I don't have the body of a strength and conditioning coach or an athletic coach that typically you would see. Again, there's those judgments that are put on me just by people looking at me without ever knowing me. But I really do know my stuff, and I can empathize with people who are currently where I was, in a way that a coach who has been athletic their entire life can't. And again,
And
that's not
that right there, my sister, that is, you said that the imposter syndrome comes in because I don't look like your average fitness coach. And that's damn right, because you ain't nowhere near average. And God knows that if half of us had to do what you did, we'd struggle for a long time, because it's like starting, you can start life with a full bank account, or you can start life with a deficit, and if you think about it, I don't know if this is going to resonate. It's a Dragon Ball Z analogy. I don't know if you ever watched that cartoon.
I was never a DBZ fan, but please use the analogy. I will follow the best that I can.
So Goku, the main guy, sometimes goes to train in this place called the hyperbolic time chamber. And basically, in the hyperbolic time chamber, it was like training if you had like a vested weight that was, and they could increase like the weight on the vest, but it was like due to gravity. So they were like fighting gravity, and they would turn gravity the fuck up. So it would be like, this would be like the hardest movement because they're probably like 20 times heavier than they were, because of gravity. So you have that training.
I want to mention something just really funny. I've seen exactly one Dragon Ball Z episode, and I remember exactly what you're describing. There was this dude, and he was hanging in this chamber, and like he had gravity turned all the way up, and and it was like an accident, and he's like, I have to so he could turn it off and get out. And I'm like, that's kind of funny that the one I've seen is the one you're talking about.
Synchronicity, man. That's so crazy. Yes.
Yeah. But I thank you for that. Thank you for seeing me in that. I have had to work very hard to get where I'm at, and I faced so many challenges and so many odds to even get here. Like, I'm, you know, if I didn't know about like synchronicities and everything, like it's like man, the odds were stacked against me. I should not be here, you know. It's all like if I hadn't honored myself, if I'd been done anything different, I would not have the opportunities that I have. I mean, um, the people who I prayed to be my mentors are, you know, like I recognize that I am an extremely blessed position. Like there are people who are way more qualified than me, have a bigger bank account than me, have like all these other advantages, but don't have the opportunities that are in my lap. And I recognize that I basically won a spiritual lottery, you know, and I recognize that I did work very hard and face very many things that had I been like just slightly off and you just like my resolve could have gone any other way, you know, and it just happened that I have a force of will that's all like, no, I'm gonna do the damn thing. You told me I can't. Watch this, and I'm gonna smile about it as I do it. Prove you wrong. You know? You know? And it is just one of the coolest things. Like I look back at my life because me, it's my life. I mean, it's whatevs, right? And then I start telling people, and they're like, dude, that's a badass life. And I'm like, dude, that is a badass life. And you know what? It's okay to admit that you have a badass life. It may not be perfect. Nobody's life is perfect, no matter what they say.
Well, there is no such thing as perfect.
No
Progress over perfection. Is your life progressing in a way that makes you, then you're good.
Yes. And you know, another, like I was saying, you know, do I wish there was more in my bank account? Yeah. But I've always made it. I've always, you know, been provided for. You know, I know that everything is teaching me and preparing me for what is to come. And I know that there are big things in my future. And while I would love spoilers, you know, I'm one of those people that enjoy spoilers. I'm like, oh, okay, cool, yay. And I think that's the anxiety in me because I like to know what happened, you know?
I feel ya.
Right? It's like, yes, I still, I don't want to say I suffer from anxiety, but I reckon because I don't suffer, you know, it's like I recognize that it's there. I recognize that there are times I still get depressed. There are times that I still get angry. There are times that I still get just apathetic. You know, it's like, no, I'm tired. I'm done. I'm just going to lay here on the couch, Twinkies, you know, Netflix, and, you know, my Netflix and chill is a tub of ice cream and Netflix, you know. I don't do that very often, but it happens. Like it happens sometimes. And again, it's that Reese's, dude. It's every time. Or if you freeze Twinkies, that was my first quarantine snack. Just saying, like when quarantine hit, I figured it was the apocalypse when I looked down in my grocery cart and I had a case of White Claws, and I don't drink. That's another thing. I don't drink, but I had a case of White Claws and 2 boxes of Twinkies, and I'm like, yep, world is ending.
We're going out with a bang.
I'm all like, all right, if we're going out, I am drinking White Claws and Twinkies. You know,
you might as well be ready.
Yeah, and again, honestly, that was actually when quarantine hit, I was actually relearning to heal my relationship with food, because that was another huge step towards self-love, was healing that relationship that I had with food. And I actually went and saw a nutritionist, and she gave me this book called Intuitive Eating. And one of the first things in the book was, by the way, there is no wagon that to fall off of. Everything is, yeah, it's like, everybody's like, oh man, I fell off the wagon. I had pizza, I had some beer. And it's like, dudes, there's There's actually no wagon to fall off of. Like, it is all on the menu. Like, everything is okay to eat. But what does your body like to eat? Like, what does it actually like to eat? And what are you eating out of habit? You know, are you eating out of habit? And it's like, and one of the first things in the book was, all right, go buy some trigger foods until they're not triggers anymore. And for me, it was White Claws and Twinkies. Those were my trigger foods. And now I haven't had a White Claw and I don't know how long. I haven't had a Twinkie and I don't know how long. And you can put a Twinkie right in front of me. And I used to tell people that Twinkies were my heroin. Because I would tell people that I had a food addiction. Like, if somebody in the office brought donuts, I'd be like, no, I'm not going to have one. I'm not going to have one. And then for however long it was until I finally broke down and had that donut, that's all I would think about was that donut. That donut's right over there. I could smell it, smell the sugar. And it'd be like, you know, and like, it was all, my brain would loop. Now it's like, it has no power over me, you know? Did it take it took a hot second to even get to that point though. When I say a hot second, it was having the awareness that there was no wagon, putting everything back on the table, on the menu. I nearly had a nervous breakdown. That was actually the hardest part of the entire intuitive eating process, was realizing, especially coming from carnivore, because I went from carnivore to intuitive eating. By the way, that was a shock. I was carnivore for 6 months. Okay. And like I said, I did it for the wrong reasons. My body enjoys eating meat, loves it. I have O negative blood, and
yeah, me too.
Yeah, hey, we can give each other blood. Go us. We're generally, the blood types, the O's, do better with a more meat-based diet. And so I respond very well to carnivore, except my brain wasn't right. And by that, I meant I wasn't doing it for the right intent. I was doing it because the guy I was with, it was not a good relationship. I allowed all the boundaries to be crossed in that one, and I accepted his beliefs about the way I looked. And I thought that, yeah, I was definitely not in a place. It was definitely for the wrong reasons. And it's actually that relationship that taught me that I didn't love myself, was based on how I allowed him to treat me.
Yeah, relationships, if you want to learn stuff, relationships are really good for learning.
Oh yeah, those relationships, they'll get you. But yeah, intuitive eating and putting things back on the menu. Yeah, I nearly had a nervous breakdown. So yeah, that's hard. It is so hard. So anybody who is learning it, I feel you. I see you. I understand what you're going through, bros.
And she's here for you. She's here for her. We're here for you. Angie, thank you so much for sharing yourself with us. Where can people find you?
I can actually be found on both Facebook and Instagram. It is on Instagram, it's at Angi Fae, and it's ANGIFAE. And same thing for Facebook, Angi Sanders or Angi Fae. I actually do have one of those fan, or like those, I don't want to call it a celebrity page, but it's, you know, whatever that page is, that's, you know, whatever. Yeah. I have a page for that too. But like, find me. Like, I love meeting new people. I love talking. I love, like, if you need help, if you need encouragement, I say I'm a professional cheerleader. I feel for you. Like, I will hold space. If all you want to do is just be like, tell me what's going on, then I will just sit here and listen. I've got 2 ears. You know, I've got a big giant heart. I will love you just for being you. But yeah.
So you are taking new clients right now.
I am taking new clients. If you Like seriously, if it's fitness, like we spend all days talking about self-love. I specialize in self-love, and it's from my own experience and like learning how to love myself. So it's not just something I read in a book somewhere. It's like I put it into practice. I practice it every day. This is my life, and I want to help other people love themselves. As the great John Wolfe once said to me, he's like, I teach people how to hug themselves better. And I'm all like, stealing that, John. So yes, I teach people how to hug themselves better.
John Wolfe, as in last two, best two?
As in last two, best two.
Oh,
yes.
All right. Shout out to Coach Wolfe.
Yeah, shout out to Coach Wolfe.
Oh, Angie, it's been such a treat. Thank you so much. Thank you for being who you are and doing what you do the way only you know how.
Thank you for having me, and you're so welcome. It has been a deep, deep honor to even be here. Thank you.
And likewise, my sister. Big love.